Baby, take my money and tell me where to go. Oh, honey, take my money and tell me where to go. I ain't been to the bandstand since 1964. Oh, mama, I'm going back to the bandstand to meet some friends of mine. I'm going back to the bandstand to meet some friends of mine. I'm going back to the bandstand to see you one more time, baby. All right now.
Welcome back to the Bandstand. Myself, Cameron Ritchie, once again joined by cameraman and technical guru George Frank, and back from his one-match absence is Gary Redhead. The eagle-eyed amongst you have probably noticed it's been former Blues that we've spoken to, including Paul Woods, Sean Winter, Martin Green, Stephen Noble and Grant Anderson. Now, for the first time, we speak to a current Blue, and not just any Blue, but the club captain and a man with more than 300 appearances for the club. It's Grant Gallagher. Grant, welcome to the podcast.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
As I said, we're going to have a kind of a proper look back at your career, not just at Stranraer, but obviously focusing on your time at the club. If we start at the very, very beginning, for idiots like us who are never going to make it as professional footballers, how does it come about that you begin your career at a club like Celtic? How do you get spotted and invited to join?
So when I was younger, I just used to play boys club with my local team, which was Belfield Royals, who are based in Kilmarnock. And from there, it was just a case of like, scouts would come out to these games and watch local teams. At that time, Celtic were obviously out watching me and invited me to start training at what they called satellite centres. So they had them all over. I don't know if they still do, but they had them all over different parts of Scotland, so that basically they were getting the best, if you know what I mean, around the country, training at different parts. But at that time, when you were younger, when I was younger anyway, you didn't have to commit to training with one team. So I actually trained with Celtic, Hibs and Rangers, as well as my boys club. So it was a hectic week, not just for me, for my parents obviously taking me to all these training sessions. I think it's obviously changed nowadays in terms of like clubs wanting them younger, but back then you were allowed to train with as many as you wanted. So basically, when you got to a certain age, the clubs would then start to make contract offers. I think it was when I was around 16, 17, when you can leave the school, you kind of get offers then. But before then, I just trained when I was younger, right from when I was 8 years old, all the way through to, as I say, 16, 17, when I finally got my first full-time contract with Celtic.
So obviously, as you say, starting out as an 8-year-old, and obviously you've been kicking a ball about kind of prior to that as well. How much of a kind of dream come true is it when clubs start coming in with, as you say, professional contracts?
I mean, at the time, you kind of, when you're younger, you don't really take it in as much. You just want to be a footballer. So, like, when people are offering you contracts and stuff like that, you're like, oh, that's good. But it's quite hard to take in when you're younger. Before I signed for Celtic, what happened was they invited what they thought were the better players from each satellite centre, and we had to play in a trial game. And I received a phone call actually to say that, look, they thought I played really, really well. They would like to invite us back, not to worry of that. It's like, you've been selected. We just need you to take part again in another one because there's a few we've just not sure about yet. So it was quite good a feeling going back, knowing that I was going to get some sort of contract to join the academy. The crazy thing is, obviously said yes when they phoned. A day later, Hibs phoned and offered a deal. So you just never know. Like, if Hibs phoned the day before Celtic, do you take that deal? Because back then you're probably just so happy that somebody phoned you and offered you a professional contract. But it just happened to be that it was probably one of the biggest teams in Europe, so it makes it a bit better.
What year would you have been in at school when the decision came to leave and, as you say, sign a professional deal?
I actually knew I was getting a deal when I was in 5th year at school. But I couldn't leave. I couldn't, well, obviously become full-time until I was 16. So I just stayed on for my 6th year and I mucked about basically. So, because I knew I was getting a professional contract. But obviously my parents are quite level-headed, so they made sure I stayed for another year of academic studies before leaving to go full time.
What a feeling that is. 5th year, 6th year, like tipping your pals off just off the phone to Silver here. Oh,
Aye.
dying to get me in. Hibs
I
and
know
Liverpool.
it's a strange one because obviously at the time a lot of my mates even left like fourth year and became like plasterers, electricians, like and modern apprenticeships and things like that. But it was a strange feeling just kind of getting yourself through a year, and I couldn't wait. I just wanted like summer to come, school to finish, and then start becoming what I always wanted to do, a professional football.
Was Celtic your kind of team growing up, or who did you
Not at
support?
all. No, my dad always supported Celtic. That's his team. I've been a Kilmarnock supporter since very young. It was just a tradition that the family would meet round at my aunt's, and then we would all go to the games on a Saturday together, and then go back there for a wee bit after it. So that's kind of how that came about. But most of the family is all Kilmarnock supporters, like myself.
When you're that sort of age, I imagine you don't kind of take into account how many players don't make it. Are you almost kind of young and kind of naive in that respect that you can't allow that to kind of come into your mind?
Yeah, it's so difficult because every year you'd obviously have your season, and then at the end of the season they would let boys go. And I think for that to happen like year after year and we get a deal year after year was an amazing feeling. As you say, as you would see so many new faces come in. Like I've been in there since I was younger, and the end of the season, new boys would come in, and still a few would remain. But yeah, as you say, it's like a revolving door. With faces coming in because, as you say, it's not until you get a bit older you realise at the end of the day it's a business, and that business wants the best talent. So they're going to bring people in. But when you're younger, you just never, ever, ever think about it that way. You just want to keep playing football and play for Celtic.
Who was kind of around your age group that's gone on to make it?
Oh, there was me and James Forrest. That's who I used to travel with. Either his mum would take me or my mum would kind of take him to training. So obviously James, he's probably the most one that's went on to have his most prolific career. There isn't many, to be fair. There's not many. There's guys that have came later on through the door, like Big Declan Gallagher. We actually signed him from Hamilton. But as you say, like there's no many. And what happens actually through the season is you attend like parents' nights with your mum and dad and other parents, and you sit through seminars. And the club are honest; they'll say like, not every kid's going to make it. So don't think that it's going to be your kid. They'll need to work hard, etc. But like the stats are low, and how many professional actually get to make that first team?
Are you sitting there in the parents' evening sort of thing when they're sitting saying this?
Yeah,
Aye.
but you just don't register that. You kind of think, oh, I'll be that person. Like you're just naive to it. You're young. You think I've got a great chance of doing it. But as again, when you get older, you think how many people, and that's just one club, how many young people have been sitting there with that same conversation, and they've obviously ended up going down different routes.
Were there players in the kind of different age groups as you were growing up that didn't get kept on that you kind of thought he's got a really good chance of making it? If he can't make it, what chance have I got?
Nah, I never really thought about that. I just, again, just always focused on myself. Like, I think you were just glad to get the news when you sat down that they were going to offer you a new deal. So if anybody else didn't make it, then it was kind of like, so be it. Of course, I had friends and that because I grew up with quite a few of them. Some has went all the way to full time, whereas like some have come in and left. But as I say, you just kind of focus on yourself, and then you hope it's you that is going to make it.
So how did it come about? How was the news broken to you that unfortunately your time at Celtic is coming to an end?
I kind of knew it was coming to an end. I just had a gut feeling. When it was the end of me reaching under 19s, it was at the time, reserve football had actually just been scrapped. So if they didn't deem you good enough to go straight from being an under 19 to the first team, then where do you fit in? There was no in between anymore. Obviously now they've got lights of the B team and stuff like that. But there was obviously that decision made by the SFA that reserve league wasn't fitting a purpose. Actually, off the back of that season, I captained Celtic and we won the double. So it's the best you can do under 19s as well. It's the League Cup and the league that you're involved in. I heard snippets that other few boys had been in talking to Chris McCart, who was the head of the academy at the time, saying he was offering new deals, and I wasn't getting invited in at the same time as people. And when you put two and two together, you know it's coming. So when I walked in, I kind of wasn't too surprised, and I just had a gut feeling, as I say, and my time was up basically.
Is it all about how you kind of move on from that? I guess that, as I say, there's no doubt been loads of players that have been released by a big club that their heads have just dropped and never really recovered from it.
Aye, it is difficult. I actually thought it'd be easier for me to stay at a full-time club. As I say, maybe at that time, just having no reserve football, how can clubs take financial risks, as I say, and go and sign young boys when they've never been proven in the top league or championship even, or there probably wasn't many full-time teams in League One, maybe a couple, but it was very, very difficult. I thought it'd been so much easier. I had people trying to help me, but just no many doors got opened. I actually went and spoke to an agent prior to signing another year with Celtic, saying, do you think it's a good decision maybe to try go somewhere else? Because maybe I've got more of a chance of make it. The agent gave me advice just saying, why don't you just stay at the top? Because if you're at the top, there's a lot more to fall into, but it just wasn't the case at all.
So how did the move to Stranraer come about? Because obviously, if you've played kind of plenty of games, etc., if you're an experienced pro, you'll know people at different clubs. There's kind of ways that you can kind of get your foot in the door. How does it work for a guy that, as you say, hasn't played a senior game?
So for some reason, I think I ended up in trial at Ayr actually through somebody that I knew. Went for 2 sessions and again just didn't get offered a deal. And then I was like, where's next? And then I can't remember if I messaged Ryan Marshall or Ryan Marshall messaged me. I think he messaged me. He was saying he's still looking for a team, and at the time it was obviously Knoxie in charge. So I went in for pre-season, and naive again, I'm just out of full-time football, so I go along to Stranraer's training. I don't take kit, I don't take a towel, I just take wash bag, usual full-time football stuff. I had to borrow kit off, if you remember Big David McAuliffe, he was on loan from Motherwell at the time. Luckily he had a spare set. So that's how it kind of came about, just through a Facebook Messenger chat.
So how does it work? Do you go, well, firstly, in terms of the Ayr thing, you've said Kilmarnock fan, would you have had any kind of mixed feelings about signing for them, or is it, no, I need a job, I need to get a team, that's that?
Nah, it was kind of like I just want to be a footballer, and it's like at the end of the day, like there's probably many people who have support Rangers and might have played for Celtic, just never admitted it. So that happens in football. It was just one of the things where I thought it was the only club that was showing at least a bit of interest in inviting us in, so I had to go.
You
You
just
wouldn't
couldn't
sign for them.
see that big Kilmarnock badge that you've got tattooed on your chest.
Nah, that's it. I had to cover that up, the badge. And then, as you say, Gary, maybe no anymore now.
No, no chance.
But for those that are unaware, I don't know how many people know this. In terms of your first contract at Stranraer, it was a bit unusual, I think that would be fair to say.
Yeah, obviously I agreed with Roxy that I still wanted to try and pursue full-time football. So the only way they could make that happen was if I played for free for 6 months. Simply because like there's terms where if you agree a contract and you're under a certain age that teams would need to pay for you. So I agreed to play for 6 months for free. But on the contract, I've still got it somewhere. It basically says I've signed for £1 a week because they've got to put a number on the contract. They can't put zero. I'm pretty sure now that against the law, somebody was getting paid £1 a week, but I never ever seen those pounds, by the way. So he's owed me a bit. He's owed me a few quid.
I was about to say, we couldn't even afford that back then.
Aye, so basically that's how it came about. Like I still wanted to try and pursue it, and Noxie was I'm sure Noxie was happy enough for me to say I'd play for free. And then obviously from there nothing came about. So I just says that I would sign kind of more on terms for money, etc. when after that 6 months was up.
My memory of it seems to be very much that there was yourself and Ross Dunlop in on trial, brother of Mick Dunlop that played for Stranraer as well. Were you both aware that there's kind of one contract that's down to the two of you?
Nah, I didn't know anything. Again, like there was a few new faces, and obviously there was some boys that I knew anyway, so I felt quite relaxed actually. As I say, I knew Big David McAuliffe because we played against each other, similar age when he was at Motherwell. I knew Ryan, of course, so I actually felt quite relaxed. And at the time, there was also other boys like Malky and Winto who were also. I think they had a few trial games the same time as me, so nah, it was quite relaxed. And I just says, you know what, I'll go in, I'll see what happens. But sometimes you just kind of get a feeling how you're getting on in trials and how things are going. I was getting a good feeling compared to what was happening when I was going in trial with Ayr. There was no really much communication, so I was kind of thinking nothing's going to come of this. But there was good communication between me and Noxie at the time, and he's wanting me to come back for more games, etc. So no, there was definitely a better feeling about it.
You must have only been in for a matter of weeks before Ryan unfortunately got the kind of serious head injury that he got not long into his Stranraer career.
Aye, that's right. Obviously, I remember seeing and reading about it and stuff like that, and the helicopter. I think obviously it was a big dramatic part of his life. But to be fair, now I think last time I spoke to him, I was trying to get him actually to play or be involved in the testimonial that's coming up. Obviously me and Robbo. I can't even invite a guy that didn't basically had a hand in getting me signed. So, but I think he's still with Celtic as well, doing a bit of coaching, or he was the last time I spoke to him. So it's worked out pretty decent for him.
If we look at your kind of first league game, you had guys like Lee Sharp, Michael Moore, Armandoni, all experienced pros. How much of a help were they in terms of you finding your feet when it came to competitive football?
Aye, amazing. I think that's what made me realise this is professional football. Obviously, like I've just went through the motion of playing with boys my age, and they say it's obviously about development, etc. And obviously leagues did matter back then, but not as much as what it meant to these guys. And it was everything for them. It was their Saturday results mattered, and obviously they had their own careers as well, and they were still wanting to have an impact. And it was amazing sharing the dressing room with that experience.
Michael in particular, I think it'd be fair to say, a bit of a character. Kind of tell us what was he like in the changing room?
The most pumped up guy ever before a game with the music on. Like, didn't listen to anybody else's music. It was his own music, the AC/DC and the Deep Heat. I don't know if I've just got him at a later stage of his career, but the Deep Heat was unreal. It was like one for each leg. And then he would just get so pumped up and he'd be in the dressing room, like doing all his arm movements. And then he'd probably say something like, I'm getting these ready for when I score a goal, because he'd obviously get that one when he scored and stuff. But his banter was unreal. And so he's one of those guys where you play with him, you absolutely love him. But see if I say to somebody, oh, I played with Mick Moore, etc., would say, oh, he was one to watch when he says, nah, he was just like that to opposition teammates. But if you got to know him, he's like the loveliest guy ever.
I think most folk would probably agree that Michael Moore on the pitch compared to Michael Moore off the pitch, like Jekyll and Hyde, totally different.
Totally different guy, but I think that's what a lot of good pros can do. Like they can be a laugh and they know that when the time's right, and when they're getting ready for a game and they step on the pitch, they can change their demeanour totally. I mean, I've played with boys who maybe like to carry on, or their attitudes just no got them to where they need to be. But like guys like Mick, as I say, and the older boys, like they knew when to switch it on and switch it off.
That kind of is his preparations, his way of getting ready. Is that kind of infectious in a dressing room, that you see how much it means to one of your teammates, that it kind of gets you going as well?
Oh, definitely. As I say, is like when you're probably a bit younger and you're playing for that contract that everybody else is playing for, it's a bit like kind of some people might look after themselves, but when you go in that professional team environment, everyone needs everyone to play well, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to win that game. And as I say, is like those guys would get themselves fired up and made sure everybody else was ready to go with them.
Just to fast forward for a moment as well, obviously we skip forward however many years. You're now one of the experienced pros in the changing room. Are you listening to AC/DC? You getting the deep heat out?
No, I'm still trying to stay young, so I'm still trying to stay what they're listening to in the dressing room. To be fair, there's times where I still take control of the music, so it's actually one thing I've always done. When I signed, it was always my music that went on in the dressing room, so I've kind of continued that over the length of period I've been here.
I was going to say that was there any kind of arguments with Mick over the choice of music in the
Nah,
dressing
he
room
would
at the
slag
time?
it. He would slag it, but he would just go back to his like heavy metal. So if it was like a bit of like electronic dance, he'd be like, "What is this piano music?" That's what he'd be saying or something. But he would slag it and then put his earphones in, and then he'd go out in the pitch.
Certainly your first season at the club, you played kind of predominantly at right back. Is that where you played at Celtic, or how did you end up playing at right back?
Oh, I mean, Celtic was again a bit like my career. I'd played everywhere, predominantly middle of the park, and then I played centre back a couple of times, and then played right back. It was actually Tam Burns that pulled me, and he said to me, he goes, "I want to see you in right back. I think you've got good energy. You're good in the ball." He very much kind of pulled me aside and actually spoke about it. So for quite a period of time, towards the end of my Celtic career, that's where I played. And then at the time, Knoxie needed a right back, so I just continued it for him there.
See, when we were saying about obviously Celtic and you'd captain the team, they win the double. You would think that would maybe help you being able to play anywhere. But I think that maybe went against you, the fact that it was where was his best position. We're maybe not too sure.
Aye. I've always thought of that about my career. I think at the same time, it's like it's good that I can do it, but sometimes it's a burden against myself. There's been times where, like, say for instance, I could play really well middle of the park, but we get an injury in summer, so I've got to go and fill in there, and then they're kind of having to go again in a new position. It can be difficult at times, like so. There has been times where I've like had to go and speak to managers and be like explain that I do want to go back in the middle of the park because I do feel it's my best position, etc. But sometimes you've just got to put things aside and do what's best for the team. But as you say, like if you were thinking selfishly, it can be difficult at times, especially if you go and win. You might not see yourself back in that position for a long time.
We've said all this was under Keith Knox. What was Keith like to work under?
A very good manager. I really like Noxie. I think obviously with him playing with the club as well, he knew what it was all about. He just had I thought he had good man management. I think he just wanted the team to win. He just knew how to get them going as well. He wasn't I don't hope he doesn't mind me saying this, like a tactical genius. Like I think today's game, everyone feels as if they've got to know tactics inside out or be something that's creating something new. He just put a team out there that he thought would go and win us the game and trusted us. And then if he was going to go and win at half time, he would let you know. He wasn't shy of that. He would take his teeth out before it. So you knew it was coming. Usually between him and David Mitchell, there'd be a good few shouting contests because Mitch liked a red card now and then. So between the two, we've seen a good few shouting matches. But don't get me wrong, you can shout at Noxie, have a go, but see it full time. Just like that's it. We've had our differences between the 90 minutes, and then there was never a grudge or anything like that. We go again next week.
How did Keith and Stevie Aitken work together?
So I think Ginge was the one who always took training. Noxie kind of would stand back and watch it. I think he just was happy with the way Ginge could get a tempo, etc. Obviously, like Stephen Aitken was still a registered player, but mainly a coach because I don't think he ever had to play in actually the time I was there. I can't even remember him even coming on. Maybe named himself on the bench, but would never come on. So it was more like that where I think maybe with Knox would pick the team, but like Stevie would like the one would take training and get a good tempo and get us ready for the weekend.
As players, do you have not necessarily a closer relationship with the assistant, but obviously I imagine he's kind of more of a link between players and manager?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, it's different for everybody, I suppose. It just depends who you get on with, really. Some people will go straight to the manager, some people will go to an assistant, but I've never really felt that in my career that I've had to actually go straight to like an assistant to tell the manager something. I think if you've got something to say to the manager, like you might as well go and say it to him. There's no point in you trying to get your words out through somebody else. But nah, I suppose for some people it works that way. But for myself, if I did have a problem, I'd always just go and say it to the manager.
In terms of your first goal, came at Queen of the South, quite memorable fashion as well, I think.
It was a decent strike from a decent range. We did get beat that day, but it's probably like I know it's classed as a derby. It's maybe not get the biggest crowd at it, but I suppose getting to score in a derby at a decent goal. Me and Malky always used to laugh about that one because like the first time it got mentioned in the media, it was something like 20 odd yards, and then he pulled up another article and it was like 28, and then the next man was 30 something, and he was like getting further and further back. It's good to see you scored for your own half, etc. So it's quite funny the goal as well.
I've said as well, two of my favourite games as a Stranraer fan were the Scottish Cup games against Auchinleck Talbot. 2-0 down in the first game, David McGregor gets sent off, they miss a penalty, Stranraer pull it back to 2-2, goes to a replay. Stranraer 2-0 up, Auchinleck Talbot get it back to 2-2, and I think if my memory's right, you misplace a pass, I'll say. James Latta nearly scores, like Mitch saves, then pretty much straight up the park, and you score the winner. What are your memories of those two games?
They were tough games. They were. Obviously, like Talbot, a good junior side. And obviously, when you get a team like that, they want to prove themselves against a senior club. And don't get me wrong, we were always a good. I think the earlier teams that I played in, with some cracking cup runs, we were a good cup team to be fair. But it was tough games. I think we got away with one, to be honest with you, in the first leg, coming back like that. And then obviously to still have the grit to go to up 2-0, and then it was an amazing feeling.
Again, I'm hoping you don't mind me saying this, but you celebrated it like a man who didn't score many goals. It was kind of like running to the fans and then a bit of a jump up and then kind of hugging players. You didn't look like you had a pre-planned celebration or anything.
Nah, it's not a classic Alan Shearer, is it? It was more just enjoy the goal. But I suppose it's more like relief because, as you say, is the leg before it was so difficult, and then we've had to come back for being 2-0 up. And then I think at that time we knew we were going to win it. So it's more relief, and obviously other teams were in the hat already. And I think it was just like, as I say, is relief that we're going to be in the next round and guarantee, well, no guarantee it, but the chance of getting a big club. So it was good.
It's 10 years later and they still not got a celebration.
No,
I think,
no, you
I think
can't,
he
you
scored
can't
like
keep on it.
against Stirling Albion, I think it was. You just sort of throw the arms in there like that, and you just start grabbing subs by the neck and throwing them.
No, maybe I need to get one or maybe score more. Maybe that's the thing.
In terms of those games, how difficult is it when kind of the shoe's on the other foot that Stranraer are quote unquote the favourites because you're playing a non-league team? It almost feels a wee bit like you get through, people go, well, so you should because you're a league team. And if you get put out, people don't kind of appreciate that, as you say, Talbot are a good junior team.
No, as you say, it's like you're always kind of like, it's a lose-lose situation almost because, as you say, like if you win the game, it's like, oh, Stranraer won. If you lose the game, it's like, wow, Stranraer have been beat off them. That should never happen. But as you say, like we are the professional club, so you've got to go out and try and obviously get to the next stage as you should be. But as like these clubs, it's their chance as well, so you've got to give them the respect as well.
In terms of that period, you would have had games against there, like winning 6-3, winning 4-0, you've beaten Dunfermline, beaten Ross County. What was it like to be part of that squad?
Amazing. I think that we just used to go out and think we could beat anybody. Didn't matter who they were, like what league they were in. We would go out there, be us, and then hopefully come full time that we've either put in a decent shift or we go and get a win. I think just the mentality of that team was crazy at times. As I say, is like we wanted the big draws almost, so we could be the team that would go and cause the upsets rather than maybe just take the easier draw and get yourself into the next round. We always wanted to get the big draw and be somebody who could go and achieve something.
Is that mentality something that can be coached, or is it something that just comes with results and that momentum?
Nah, I think it just comes with a personality that's built in you. Maybe over some experiences, like just that team where all we wanted to do was win. But as you say, is like if you could probably see that changing room was weird, as if we would go out, we wouldn't really focus on other teams. We would never ever really speak about what other teams are going to do, but speak about what we would do. And then I think the boys would just step out and do the business. And as you say, there was guys that just loved scoring goals, which makes it easier. There was guys that just loved defending, so we weren't like conceding many. So you bring all that together with a bit of ability. It was pretty much some of the games were almost so enjoyable to play in. You didn't want them to finish.
Guess as well that there's an important difference between you're saying about the belief that you could go and beat anyone. There's the difference between cockiness and just that belief.
Nah, it was never cockiness as well. Never ever. Nobody would ever step out or say anything before the game that was out of order or be like far-fetched that we're going to batter a team or we'll absolutely batter them. Never. We just knew it. We just knew it. We just like a team that if we scored one, we would get another one, maybe possibly another. And even if we conceded, we would have the grit and determination to get ourselves back in the game. We just, as I say, it was just that aura about the changing room. But that comes with a good mixture of young people, of older guys, just a really good mix of a dressing room that could bring it on and switch it all on together at the same time.
Let's say about those games, the games against there, Ross County, Dunfermline, they weren't games where Stranraer were like the plucky underdog and took a battering but won 1-0. They were games where Stranraer, it was kind of swashbuckling football, I guess. That was kind of attack. If they score one, we're going to outscore you.
A wee bit, I suppose, as I say, is like we just went out to win games. So, like, if they did score two, we'll try and score three. And so usually, sometimes that worked, sometimes it never. But a game, well, they're just to try and win games of football. And maybe at the time that did work for us, as we spoke about, like we were maybe called out as underdogs because it was your full-time teams, etc. So again, maybe we were out to prove that we were better than these guys. But again, there was never really talk about that. We just had a belief that no matter who we faced, that we would give them at least a decent game. And then if we beat them, then so be it.
Quite
Are there-
refreshing to hear. Obviously, going back to what we're saying around, but going back to basics in terms of putting 11 out and just like go and have a go at it. Just have confidence in yourself, Ritchie, and try and win the game.
That was
Rather than
it.
overanalyzing everything about it.
That was it. I think like football's obviously evolved a lot. Like everything like back then when Knoxy used to read the team out, like you would listen for your number because you didn't have a number back then. So if I was number 2, I was playing right back. If I was number 8, I was playing centre mid. There was times where I was playing 11 or 6. You just hoped that you were in that 1 to 11. Unless our man was playing, obviously he'd a special jersey to fit him. But that's what it was like. You would be listening in intrigued just to hear your name against a 1 to 11 to make sure you were playing. Once you were in the team, just go step out. As I say, the team was probably that good that many guys could play different positions and gelled that well that it just seemed to work for us so well.
I imagine there was a right closeness and kind of tight knit feel about that squad as well.
Always, all the time. I think what worked quite well, there was like a few from Ayrshire, a few from East Kilbride. Obviously, the Glasgow boys are usually quite near each other, etc. We would always like get a drink in the bus home, and then usually the Ayrshire boys would end up out somewhere, East Kilbride boys. Sometimes we would go to East Kilbride, just see where the bus would drop us off. It was like that kind of team that was always close together. But because we were winning games, it was easy probably for the manager to manage. He would let us be. And if we did get beat, it wouldn't be disrespectful in terms of like the bus with the music on. But it would still keep that good cohesion. It was just so enjoyable.
I think people probably understand the need for a bond between players, between the squad, but maybe still underestimate it. That I guess if you've got teammates around you that you know you can depend on and they will do their job, and you know if you make a mistake, they're going to back you up. That must be absolutely vital in a team game.
No, 100%. As I say, it's like when you stepped out that pitch, like you totally understood. Everyone understood their job, their role, what to do, but also would help others out when do their job. If you look back at some of the teammates that I've played with, like their energy, their work rate, just what they would put in for 90 minutes, not just doing their own job, but helping others out. And as I say, it would get us through games at times, and we would never ever beat the teams that you've mentioned if that wasn't the case. If guys were having a bad game, they'd pull them out a hole, and then we would just go for there. It was like such a team where you could depend on them.
Are there any games from that kind of period that stick out to you personally as kind of personal highlights?
There's never ever a game I've thought like, oh, that's the one for me. Like there was just like so many. Like if I speak to different Stranraer fans, they're probably the same. They'll pick out wee different games. Like I spoke to some people, they pick out like Brecon away. There was one time we played Brecon away. The football was unreal. We scored a few goals. There's obviously things like, as you say, we have beat teams like Dunfermline at home, Dunfermline away. But like, there's never ever a game I've thought that's the one, just because there was so many. And as I say, is like I think that's a good thing. Like I'm not just picking one game because there was that many enjoyable games. It was like normal to be winning. So to pick out one game was so difficult.
I think one game that a lot of folk would pick out would be Boxing Day away at Ibrox. Take us through the whole kind of build up to that, because obviously with Rangers being in the lower leagues, there was so much more coverage in comparison to any other season.
It was like quite a difficult season because obviously you knew like you're going to play Rangers at some point, and I think some boys would look maybe more forward to that game than having to go somewhere like what it's like back in that day or even today, like the travelling, and everyone would want to be ready for that game. But the build up to the game it's like no other game. Like believe it or not, when I went Dublin like for a Christmas night out, not that long before it. Was it Dublin we went to? No, Belfast, sorry. I went to Belfast, on the drink for 2 days, and then a few days later back training, and then went to Ibrox. So again, like nobody was really like thinking like too much about it. We still went about our normal lives, our part-time football, still wanted a Christmas night out. I remember turning up to Ibrox, but we had to change our socks for some reason. That's why the kit looks terrible that day. And we borrowed, I think Rangers had to give us pairs of socks, etc. So we're not looking great when we score the goal, but again, like boys just went out there, gave it our best, and right to the 90 minutes, like every game we did. And you're quite lucky when you've got players like Jamie Longworth and the ball falls to somebody like him. That's probably 9 times out of 10 going to hit the net.
Does that kind of typify what you're saying, that kind of belief that a goal down to Rangers at Ibrox, there's probably teams that would have thought, well, a 1-0 defeat to a team that's going to win the league, that's full time, that's so much bigger than us, that's probably not too bad. But to keep going to the 90th minute and get that equaliser.
Yeah, I think again it's just down to the mentality of the team. Again, no matter who they play or the circumstance, we've got to go out there and beat them, or at least put in a decent performance. And the goal is actually an amazing goal. I think it starts from the goalie. We go up the park, obviously get into their box, and to be doing that in 90 minutes at Ibrox is something amazing because for most of the games you defend, but to still do that at 90 minutes was unbelievable. I remember when we score, obviously we celebrate like mad, and we go back to the centre circle. I asked the ref how long to go, and he told me that's it. So what a feeling that was as well, that they weren't even going to get another crack at it.
What you're saying there, coming about obviously like 90th minute, last kick of the ball type of thing. It's not a bad result. 1-0 at Ibrox. I actually turned out the boy behind me and said them exact words. I can remember it. At the time, I was like, I mean, good performance. We beat 1-0. It's not a bad trip. And then they took a short corner. And then I can remember speaking to the boys over Sport Ringers and afterwards. I was like, I can't believe we're taking a short corner at that point. And just like you said, to go from back to front that quickly in about maybe 5 touches or something like that,
Yeah.
It's quite an amazing feat, to be fair.
No, definitely. And I think that was just down to like the team. They were a fit team. We were confident, etc., and would have went right to the death no matter what. Like if the ref played 7 or 8 minutes, would have still continued on. If they gave them another chance, it would have defended like mad. We're just that type of team who, no matter who we played, we just gave it our all. I even know that some of my mates missed a goal just because you know what it's like at Ibrox. Like everyone leaves a bit earlier because the stadium was actually quite deserted compared to what it was like at the start. So when I told them it finished 1-1, they were like, "What? I couldn't believe it." So aye, but it's one of those things.
What was it like? But as you say, obviously, when you go to Ibrox and Stranraer, the size of the club that they are, they're going to have a kind of a small triangle in the corner like that. What was it like running across towards the Stranraer fans who are obviously going absolutely crazy for the goal?
No, amazing. I think it makes it more special. Obviously, you know how much like it means to these supporters to go somewhere like that, and it will stay with them forever. Like, that memory will stay with them forever. It usually comes up every season when I speak to somebody, so it's kind of glad that you have made a Stranraer memory in that kind of terms, that they've went to Ibrox and they've got a goal. The wee team is what they say. Managed to get a late goal at Ibrox, but when you do see it and it's that small triangle of supporters, and to fill it as well, was just amazing.
I think, as you say, it's one of those that everyone's got their kind of individual memories of. Like I can hear my mum kind of commentating as I think it was Lloyd Kinnaird was kind of coming down the right, and she was going, "Come on, Lloydie, come on, Lloydie, like, come on, Andy, like, come on, Jammer." So I can hear all that through my head as I watch it back. And I remember going next door to the McDonald's and getting a double espresso after full time, and you could have scraped me off the ceiling. I was that kind of buzzing with the whole thing. But yeah, I think anyone listening to this will probably have their own kind of take on the day and what led up to it, what happened at the time, everything after it. Just special moment.
It's literally one of them where were you moments for any like Stranraer fan. Like I said, everybody can remember exactly what they were doing and what they were saying in that moment. And for a part-time club like Stranraer, the moments are kind of few and far between. So it is special for every player that was obviously part of it.
The hardest thing actually was to do was see the game after Rangers. Every time you played at Ibrox, the game after it was always harder for various reasons. Like you've just played at a 50,000 odd stadium, packed, like adrenaline running through you straight for the minute you come out that tunnel. Then you've maybe got to go somewhere where it's no so glamorous. The changing rooms, pretty much everyone's on top of each other. You come out the dressing room, probably it's no the same atmosphere, obviously.
Stay apart.
Stay apart. And as well, like you've used that much energy the week before that you're still catching up on yourself. I don't think there was many teams that would have like probably won the week after playing Rangers because you expended that much energy. So it was actually more difficult the week after, the game after Rangers more than anything.
Cameron will keep me right here, but was the game after Rangers the Ibrox Boxing Day one, was that no United at home?
Yeah.
Or was it a game in
Four-
between? It
4-0.
was it
4-0.
4-0.
Well, no.
You're talking rubbish, Gal.
Aye. Maybe that was a one-off. Maybe we're just up for. Maybe we're still in the Christmas spirit and the drink or something. But it's obviously not.
In terms of Sean Winter, I'll always be quick to mention, like, did I mention that I played against Andy Robertson? Did I mention that at Hampden? What about Jamie Longworth? Is he the kind of guy that, have I mentioned that I scored at Ibrox?
Never. Never. Jammer's the quiet guy who just puts the ball in the net and maybe never speak about it again. He did have a few comments now and then, but not as much as what Winto would. Anything Winto did, he would let you know. Whether it was the scorpion kick against Dumbarton or a penalty that he scored or something like that. Great game against Andy Robertson. He will never ever let you forget it.
How strange is it in a league with Rangers where obviously you can match them in a one-off game, but you know at the start of the season they're going to go on and win the league. So it's basically you're almost playing for second place or the playoffs from day one.
But to be fair, we, as much as I says we were a confident team, we would never set our sights to win the league. I know that may sound daft, but we always says playoffs, at least the playoffs, because it gives you that chance to get up. Like, so, but it didn't really matter to us. Like, playoffs were always our thing because with us in the leagues, there was always a full-time team somewhere or a more favourite. So we would always just think that they should win it. So let's at least go for the playoffs. And if we do achieve more, then obviously so be it.
Do you think the Stranraer team got the credit they deserved from that time period? Because I seem to think it was very much, if Stranraer did well in a season, the kind of media took the attitude of Stranraer had a good season, but it'll be back to kind of normal as it were next season.
Yeah, I think obviously we used to always see when the media used to predict the league table, Stranraer are always getting relegated or are finishing mid-table or down the bottom. Don't think they ever put them in the playoffs, even after we would make it consecutive seasons. The next season they would still have them down the bottom. I don't know why, because like judging by stats and previous seasons, that shouldn't have been the case, but I suppose so. I honestly think if that team had won something, they'd probably went down as one of the best Stranraer teams there was, because some of the football we did play, some of the results, it was just the thing that was lacking, was just that medal or trophy at the end of the season that we probably did deserve.
We kind of had that conversation, I think, was it with Sean? And it's almost like you didn't actually need to win any trophy because of what we're talking about in terms of the memories it's given Stranraer supporters over like maybe the 3 years or whatever it was, sort of thing. I know from like my experience, I'm only 28 or 27 coming 28, but it's my favourite period of Stranraer supporter just because so many good players, good memories, good results, and even though there was no trophy, we're not a club that's going to win many trophies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll still ultimately go down, at least in the modern era anyway, maybe the best Stranraer side or two Stranraer sides over the course of the couple of seasons that we've had.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think it was just what was missing. Like, there's times obviously it was in the grasp of our hands and we gave it away. Obviously there was even the league title, like getting into the second last game of the season against Morton. Like, it was us that were the ones who, it was in our hands still. If we take care of that game, then it goes down to the last game of the season, and obviously the Albion Rovers game and things like that. I think it's just one of those things that just always got away from us, and it was always the last playoff game, because I don't remember a game where we were ever out it in the first one. I can't remember ever thinking, well done. I could be wrong, but it was always just the last playoff game that shot us in the foot.
Is that kind of inability to get over the final hurdle, is that kind of your low point, as it were, of your career?
Major low point, because you always want to look back and see that you've won something, or you were part of something that was achieved by maybe somebody that somebody will never do again. Especially when you're so close to it. And as I say, you work so hard over the course of a season to get yourself in those positions, and you just don't finish the job. It's like, I'll always say this, it's probably one of the things that might always haunt me, I never know, but like, it's just something that I always remember, like, we've just never ever got the the finishing line and took away what we probably should have been deserved.
You had mentioned the following season, and obviously it comes down to the penultimate game against Morton on the, as I say, second last day of the season. Again, they're a club that's going to bring down a big support. What was that game like? Obviously, you went off injured before half time, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we were well and truly in it as well. We obviously knew they were going to bring a big support, the full-time team again. They were the favourites to win the league, I think, as well. So we knew it was going to go down to the wire. But we knew, I think if we won that game, then we would have won the league. We would have. So just to kind of like, again, get so close to nearly finishing top of the bunch where nobody ever predicted, to then get in the playoffs and losing them, it's so hard to take. I think maybe that's why that season it just took us back a bit, that we just never ever finished the job on the actual season.
I know it's all kind of ifs and buts, but do you reckon it could have been different if, as I say, you hadn't been forced off injured?
I don't know. It's like it was the injury that I got. I just could not continue. It was one of the kind of medial ligament, my medial ligament, my knee, and I knew straight away I was going to have to come off. It was harder to watch because when you know it's like you watch a game as a supporter of a player, you have no influence on it. So you're kind of hoping that things go your way, and then when we're just sitting in the dressing room and all we could have done was went obviously away to Brecon. I think we had to score so many goals and they had to lose, and the boys went away to Brecon the last day of the season. And again, went out there, professional job. I think they battled Brecon that day as well, if I remember. And then we had obviously to try and pick ourselves up for the playoffs. But it was so difficult, so difficult.
There was about 90 seconds that day away at Brecon, which they were back top of the league.
Mhm.
It's like Morton were getting beaten. I can't remember, it was fourth or something like that. Were getting beat as well, and we were winning by the amount of goals I had to win. So about 90 seconds, it was pure joy and back to
Aye,
reality.
I know, and I suppose like it's one of the ones sometimes when you're part of a smaller team, it's like kind of hits you in it. It just seems to be that it was against you at times, you wee things like that. But as you say, I think that's one of the main gripes I'll always have with my Stranraer career is just that I've never ever been able to be part of a trophy team because the team was so good that they did deserve something, 100%.
How difficult is it that, as you say, you're kind of reaching out, you're just about there, kind of almost at the trophy, and then you've got the disappointment that you're not going to win the league to then pick yourself up for the playoffs? Because obviously it's a totally different kind of dynamic than if you had won 5, 6 games in a row and you get into the playoffs and you've got all that momentum behind you.
Maybe we did a different case, who knows? Um, but I think that was maybe one of the kind of major facts that we were so close to winning the league. Winning the league would have been, again, as I say, is like would top anything. Like if I did even go back, like I say, things did happen, we did draw at Ibrox, like I would still consider winning the league as the biggest achievement for myself at the club. So it's so tough, and we just couldn't pick ourselves up, I believe, from that kind of fall.
I think if we went up as well, was that the season that it was Rangers, Hearts, Hibs in the Championship as well, wasn't it? And then obviously the Queen of the South and teams
Yeah.
like that. So it would have been quite unique for us to be in a place in the same league as the two teams for Edinburgh and Rangers again as well.
Yeah, and obviously that's where the group of boys that we were playing with at the time, that's what they wanted to challenge themselves again every week. They didn't want to be stuck in the same league again. They wanted to be up playing against these team each week and showing them that we're better than just that part-time team from Stranraer. So it would have been a hell of a league to play in, to be fair.
In terms of the move to Dumbarton, how did it come about? Because obviously Stevie Aitken was manager by this point. He'd obviously started preparing for next season. I think Mark McGuigan and Ryan Thompson had both come in. They'd obviously never played a game under Stevie because he'd gone to Dumbarton. How did it end up that yourself and a few others went to Dumbarton?
So obviously we speak to the manager at the end of the season, and at that time he didn't think anything of it. So he did offer me a contract at Stranraer, and as usual, you just go away, you say you'll think about it. And then the weeks were going on and on. I hadn't heard from Stevie, and I was like, "What's going on here?" So I kind of phoned him. And I was like, "Can I hold off for now? I'll get a wee chat with you later on, etc." And then once he became the manager of Dumbarton, he kind of let me know that he would have liked to have took me with him. So it was a deal that I was like an offer that I just couldn't turn down, getting the chance to go and play in the Championship. And at that time, the Championship was unreal. It still is a good league, but at that time it was incredible. So I had to take it. I had to go and try and test myself at a higher level.
I think as well, as you say, making the step up in division, but obviously also playing under a manager that knows your game, knows how to get the best out of you as well.
Yeah, that was right. I think obviously he's obviously trusted me and wanted to take me with him. So somebody that I knew well, and I enjoyed playing under Stevie. Like obviously, I said it's one of the best teams that I've played under. And I just knew that it was right, and as much as like I do like love playing for Stranraer, and I did at the time, I could not turn that down. It'd be silly not to try and go yourself playing the championship week in week out.
We asked what it was like playing under Keith. What about Stevie? How did the dynamic change at all with him becoming manager?
Um, Not too much. Obviously, like Stevie still knew a lot of the boys that were there. He kind of like again just kept us going, and also at that time he brought in Faz. So again, what happened there was Stevie let Faz start to take training, and then Stevie would just watch training. Faz would do all the drills during the week and get the boys up for it, and then Stevie would probably pick the team. So I think that's probably the only thing that maybe did change. So it was obviously a good change that like Stevie did come in, because at the time he took over, we stayed up that year, and then he got us playing. So it was probably the right decision. As much as I says Knoxie's probably another good guy that I played under, like Stevie coming in probably just freshened us up a wee bit.